affirmations is basically prayer. And you have something bigger to look at and believe in, because if you just believe in yourself, when you're down and that belief's gone, you've got nothing to lean on, essentially. I'm Kirk Shepherd, I'm 38, and welcome to Unique Purpose.
You just finished your service for the army. What's life looking for you after that?
Wow, yeah, good question. So I was in a marriage at the time. I'd been married a long time, and I didn't really know the person I was married to because I was away all the time. So we got to a point where we were actually living together, and we didn't really get on with each other. So that marriage broke down. I moved into a flat, and then the world just turned chaotic for me. It was a very difficult time because I was suffering with the post-traumatic stress, but it was complex because I had all the issues from childhood and it all came at once. I had this huge pot of money from the military, and it got messy. It was fueled with drugs, alcohol, sex, violence, and I ended up going into a world that I knew from a long time ago, which I didn't really want to end up in. I spent all the money very quickly. I think I blew through about 200 grand in about 8 weeks, partying out in Vegas, partying at my place, like just doing all the things you could. And that money doesn't last forever. And that was one big lesson for me. Even if you won the lottery, if you don't know how to effectively run business, handle money, the money's pointless because it will just disappear faster than you got it. And when I'm coaching and training people now, I teach them, look, it's not about having a million. It's about the journey to becoming a millionaire, because if you have that million and lose it, you've built a pathway to get back there very quickly. And it's just making sure people understand that. And also it comes at a cost. So that's one thing that is part of my teaching. But yeah, going back, it was a mess. And I was stuck in that trap for quite a while. I ended up running out of cash and having to do certain things with people that I wouldn't do now, and to make a bit of ends meet. I won't go into too much detail, but it did involve certain people and certain things that you could say was outside the realms of normal. But I had to do what I had to do to survive, and it was back into survival mode again. And I built myself up from that position where I went, right, this needs to stop. I need to get on a new path. And very luckily, I ran into a friend in Preston that basically owned an estate agency, and his sales manager had just left. And he says, oh, how's it going, Kirk? What are you up to? And I said, oh, I'm retired from the army. That's what I used to tell people, I'm retired. And he was like, no, you're my new sales manager. You start work tomorrow, get a suit, turn up, and yeah, you're going to do this. You've got your experience from the military. You're a good lad. You understand things. You're driven, disciplined, and that's where the estate agency experience started. That's where my property journey started, because one person was willing to give me a chance. And yeah, I took their sales company from losing 10 grand a month to making 100 grand a month, just because I knew how to employ systems, how to recruit the people, how to build a team, and then from there, I spent about 2 years with them, and I devised a plan in my head where I wanted to become the very best salesperson. So once again, this was going back, and I thought, right, to be the best, I need to work in every aspect of a estate agency, for auction, online, hybrid, high street, commercial. And that's what I did. I just went from job to job, jumping from different jobs. I wasn't earning good money, but I was getting the experience. And this is what people don't understand. Everyone wants the end goal of the money or the lifestyle, but they're not willing to go and work for these individuals that can show you the educational route or give you the education and learning. Because the number one thing is to educate yourself, like work harder on yourself than you do on your job, essentially. So yeah, I learned that very early. I went through all these aspects, auction manager, and I built myself to the position where I said, right, I know what I need to know now. Let's go and set up a company in the Lake District. And that's what I did. Yeah, COVID hit. I moved to the Lake District, didn't really have anything, managed to get a house on a lease option, which is a rental, but you've got the option to buy it within 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
which meant we set the price today of the property. But if I bought that in 10 years' time or executed the option in 10 years, the house would have still only been 180 grand, but it might be twice that much in 10 years because of the uplift in property prices. So that was quite a clever strategy to do. And yeah, I hit the ground. COVID kicked in, so everyone started panicking. And I don't know if it was Warren Buffett that said, when everyone's fearful, be brave.
Yeah, I heard that.
And in my head, it was like, right, go. What is the worst? People still need to sell homes in this time. The government lifted the restrictions on estate agents, so we had freedom to move. And yeah, the company I went to work with, EXP, Adam Day was the director at the time. They just set up. I was one of the first agents in. And I was like, right, Adam, I'm going to hit this. I'm going to hit six figures this year. And he went, it'll take at least 3 or 4 years for anyone to hit the 6-figure barrier. It was almost like the 4-minute mile. Like they just didn't believe it could be broken. And I did that in 6 months.
Nice.
I hit £126,000 in the first 6 months. And everyone was shocked. And the great thing, what happened was, because I broke that record, like the 4-minute mile, everyone then followed. Because they knew it was real. They knew it could be achieved. It was possible. And then from there, that opened my mindset to, am I an estate agent, or can I influence and coach people into becoming champions, into becoming something great just by changing the mindset and showing them the path? And that's where I think my actual skill set lies now. I've got a great backstory for it, and which demands respect almost. The military, special forces, the upbringing. Look, if I can get here, anybody can do it. And that's the first thing I explain to people. Then you have to explain and sort of make them understand the mindset around the things that they believe. So their belief systems are all predetermined or built through years of doing things in a certain way or being taught things. So making people understand about money, for instance. Yeah. And then when you tell somebody, well, there's $750 trillion in the world circulating, from debit accounts to the stock market to cryptocurrency to cash, and then you explain out of that 750 trillion, only 7 trillion of that is actual physical cash. So what is the rest of it? It's made up numbers. It doesn't exist. If the bank switched the numbers off tomorrow, everyone's skint. And people say, well, how can there only be 7 trillion in cash and 750? Because every time you go for a mortgage, they just make them numbers up. So you're paying interest on made up numbers. So then if you reverse that and go, oh, well, if it's not real and it's all made up numbers, how do I get my hands on 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million? Because it's only made up numbers. And then you start looking at strategies like property, cryptocurrency. You go where the markets are hot at the time. Property is always a safe option. Take these fake numbers from the bank, buy property with it, get a tenant in there to pay the interest down, and just rinse and repeat and just keep repeating that process. And that's one of the easiest ways. Most people that are millionaires and billionaires built their wealth through property. So it's a very good vehicle. So that's where I attached myself to that side and started doing developments and refurbs and training people to do property, because I knew it was a good vehicle.
So you had an opportunity to work in the property industry, but did you receive any help to build your business that you have now?
No help at all. It's up until recent years, it's been very much me. I come up with an idea, I create a plan, and I execute. And the biggest part of that story, or the biggest part of that, is the execution. Most people can think of good ideas, they can write a plan, but they never ever execute. They never put the wheels in motion. And I always say to people, perfection or detail kills deals, because everyone wants a detail. Just start. That's what I tell people, just start it. Start your podcast, start your property journey, just start. And then work out the details on the way. Because most people, you'll beat everyone else because they won't even start.
The difference between a dreamer or a successful person is because they had a dream and they went ahead, even though it could have failed. But they didn't let that sort of stuff stop them from getting there.
Exactly. And I always say to people, what's the difference between a dream and a goal? A goal's written down. So anything you write down becomes reality. Yeah. And that's the difference. You turn it into reality, and it's as simple as writing it down. If you have a dream, write it down. It's then a goal. And that's the simplest format for becoming successful. Is just write it down, whatever that is. I want this car. I want to be a millionaire. Write it down, because if you can look at that every day, and there's hundreds of stories of celebrities doing that. I think Jim Carrey's probably the most famous. He wrote himself a check 5 years before actually making that money, and it was exactly the amount that he made off, I think, was Dumb and Dumber maybe, and he got that exact amount that he'd wrote on a fake check. He wrote himself a check. But it's the law of attraction, it's positive thinking, it's affirmation. You've got to believe. I've always believed. I don't think anything's impossible. I just think people aren't willing to work hard enough and give the task everything. Write it down, have the goal, and then give it everything. And it doesn't take a long time. It doesn't. You'll see the change. It's like going to the gym. If you give everything you've got, and that's not just physical effort in the gym, but that's eating right, that's sleeping right. Most people can't get in bed before 9 o'clock. That's probably one of the most important things. Most people can't get 3 litres of water down. It's funny, you can't drink 3 litres of water, but if you're in the pub, you'll smash 5 or 6 pints of beer.
Back to back.
Yeah, but these are the things. It's the small things. It's setting these tasks. It's becoming disciplined, and it's habitual. Make these things habits. Eating well, make it a habit. Drinking water, make it a habit. And cutting the things out as well. This is one of the most fundamental things. Everyone I train doesn't drink.
Okay.
Number one thing, stop the drugs and alcohol. Because you're always going to set yourself on a path of destruction with them. Big highs, big lows. I've done it. I used to do a lot of cocaine, like a lot. Like what most people, I say the average person that does drugs, but I used to do what they were doing in a week, what they did in a year in a week. You could be talking half ounce, an ounce in a week to myself. And it was normal though. But it wasn't normal because it was putting everything back.
Yeah.
I thought it was boosting me and making me a better businessman because that's what I thought businessmen did. It wasn't. And now I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I'm a different person. My mentality's clearer. And I always look to try and help people that have got addiction to say to them, well, how do we change this and how do we change their mindset? You can't as an individual. They have to make that decision. And the only way they make that decision is if they think their life is better without it. And that's how I changed. My life was better without alcohol. My life was better without drugs. I couldn't go in a pint and couldn't go in a pub and not drink 10 pints because I thought that the idea of getting drunk was to get smashed, drink as much. But now I could have a glass of wine and walk away, and I probably wouldn't even have that glass of wine because it doesn't align with my purpose and values anymore. Drugs is just a big no-no. A lot of that is social circle, environment. You've got to take yourself away from that. And as you grow, you leave them people behind anyway, naturally.
You can't fully.
Well, there's only two things people do. They either push you forward or pull you back. Locate the people that are pulling you back and get rid of them instantly.
So now would you say that you have a good circle?
Good question. Yes. The people that I don't have many friends, which is sometimes a little bit sad. But you have to be careful who you let in because they can break you very quickly. Especially close people. So you just gotta understand that and be very careful with who you let in your life. And I know that now.
You're very cautious of who gets in there.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Because I want people that want to impress me to come in. I don't want people that want to take from me or people that think I owe them something. Or even now, so I learned very early on, selection of students is as important because you are bringing this person into your life. I coach people one-to-one basis. I take on between 10 and 20 clients a year and they pay me a lot of money. And when I say a lot of money, it's about 25 grand a year each individual. And when you look at the numbers, you try and frame it in the numbers game and say, well, if I get 10 people, it's 250. If I get 20, it's 500 grand at the beginning of each year. That does me well. But then for the price you have to pay if you bring on the wrong person, they might quit. they might want their money back. They're not going to listen to what you do, and they're going to bring you down and bring you down mentally as well. So rather than looking at it from a numbers perspective, select the right candidates, and also select the candidates based on, are they going to be able to achieve? Because my goal is you pay the money and I will help you build £1 million portfolio within 18 months.
Okay.
If I don't, I'll give you your money back. That's how we work. But if you don't listen to me, you don't do the work, or you try and do things the other way, you're in breach of your contract. You're not going to get that money back. I've had people pay me 25k and then never come to one session. I've not heard of them. I don't hear of them, or I hear of them a year later like, oh, can I get that money back? No. So you've got to set your rules, you set your standards, and only let people in, even in a business perspective. Joint venture partners on deals, only deal with the right people, because they'll make your life hell. And even I've raised millions of pounds in investment funds, only let the investors in that are the right people as well, because they'll make your life hell. And it's always the people that are putting small amounts of money on the line that haven't got an appetite for risk. Every day they want an update. If things go over, they feel like the world's ending. And I always say, if you're going to invest in something, don't invest capital you can't afford to lose, because it's always a risk. Everything we do is a risk. So it's just trying to educate people. But yeah, the point being, I'm very selective of who I let in my circle. And you don't need a big circle.
So now, what's your status in terms of relationship-wise? Is it healthy? Are you in a good place after all the stuff that happened after the army?
Yeah, well, obviously I've got 2 older children with my ex-wife, which was the lady that I was in the army with. I've got 5 children with my ex-partner, who I met very quickly after getting out of the army and breaking up with my ex-wife. And now I'm in a relationship now where, so yeah, I think for them people, it's very difficult. You'd have to speak to them direct, but because I'm so business orientated and I care, and I've got that military mentality, it can come across harsh sometimes. And it's not because I don't care about people's feelings. I just care about completing the task and getting the end result, which is the best for everybody. And I can be very sharp with that. I think in recent times, I understand now if my stress levels go too high, that can then affect me, my mindset and my mentality, which can damage relationships. And I think you've always got a natural, thing for messing things up when you're a high achiever, because you might, and I say this all the time, any goal you set comes at a cost. The cost might be stress, it might be financial, it might be risk, it might be your relationships, your family. So I think now I understand that actually building wealth is about building freedom, not financial.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is how time's more important than money. And you learn that. When you stop exchanging time for money and you learn how to create money, time for money is deadly, because you're just getting paid for your time and they don't care about the time. They just want as much out of you as possible. Yeah. And most people might earn 30, 40, 50, 60,000 a year, which is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money for the amount of time they're putting in. I coach surgeons, doctors, vice presidents, presidents of companies, CEOs. These people want my life because I found a system to create money by offering service, which comes in the form of doing property deals and building stuff, or even coaching people to create a service. So I earn 10 times more than they earn, but I work 3 or 4 hours a day. I can decide to go and have time off or go away, and whatever that might be. They don't have that freedom. They have sold their soul for 100 grand a year. They've had to do 6 years at uni, plus they've had to do night shifts, day shifts, overtime, and it's killing them to earn that 100 grand, which in the grand scheme, when they were a 17-year-old kid and decided to become a doctor, it probably sounded great. Now they've been a doctor for 30 years. The passion can only get you so far. So I see that a lot now, where freedom is the real money, wealth.
in that time, in your freedom, the freedom that you have, you spend time with people that you love, that you cherish. And
Yeah, I do, but I'm always looking for the next thing because, like I said, I'm only 38. I'm still young. I'm still keen to build something great, but it's finding that purpose. I think you constantly got to adapt. Life's very short, and if you're somebody that believes in God, or everyone believes in God, you should believe in God. It doesn't matter what religion you support, but believe in a higher purpose, a higher power. And that higher power being God. And think about, he's the creator, he's created people to create. So to find your purpose, you've got to find what your purpose is to create, or what you've got to create. And that's a constantly evolving thing. And that's why I struggle when people find a job and stay in that job all their lives. They're not truly understanding or building who they are as a person. And I think once you're in that trap, you're stuck in that prison cell of non-change.
what advice would you give anyone that would try to make a business and they're going through a difficult time, or try to better their life, but they're just non-stop difficulty piling up? What would you give them?
I think the number one thing, and I tell everybody this, is educate yourself. Look, there's a lot of educational courses out there which cost a lot of money, but that should be an end goal. But start with the book, start with the information online. We live in an information era. Everything you need to know is at a touch of a button or in an audio book. And what audio books did for me, I struggled to read because of my upbringing. Education wasn't the center point. And I always thought I was missing out because I couldn't pick a big book up. I didn't understand. I could read it, but it wouldn't absorb. I found the secret of audio, where if I listen to something now, I can narrate that back to you word for word. And I didn't know I had that. If I knew I had that power at school, I'd have so much more understanding of things. So my number one thing for them people, listen to the audios, pick up the books. People have walked the path you want to walk. And they've put 10, 15, 20 years into an audio book or a book. Go and listen to them books. Listen to the pitfalls. And do you know what the audios do? They change your thinking pattern. So you're currently at this thinking level because of the situations and experiences. Reading that book takes you to that next level, and it pushes you on and on and on. And when you get to a point where you think these books all sound the same, don't see that as a negative. That's a positive, because you've took on all that information. And you've took that information in. And little books like Key Person of Influence, I think it was Daniel Priestley, Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, FBI negotiator, best negotiator in the world, one of two people that ever did that job back when he did it. 80-20 principle, changed my life. Most people out there are working 80% of the time for 20% of the reward. But the mega successful work 20% of the time for 80% of the reward. As soon as you flip that narrative, everything changes. Lifestyle changes. Time that you spend doing stuff changes, but you've got more coming in. The Secret is always a massive, massive book I tell everyone to read. Change your way of thinking. Believe in the universe and the universal rules. Because there's universal rules out there at play. And that's people like, oh, it sounds woo-woo and all that, but it's real. It happens. The second thing is get understanding a higher purpose or a higher power. You have to believe in something that's bigger than yourself. It doesn't mean you have to pick a religion, but believe that there's a higher power up there, or a God, or whatever your system is. Everyone that's successful that I've ever met believes in a higher power. Believes in God. Doesn't matter what religion you fall under, but practice it. Believe in it. Affirmations is basically prayer. And you have something bigger to look at and believe in. Because if you just believe in yourself, when you're down and that belief's gone, you've got nothing to lean on, essentially. So educate yourself. Get a belief structure. And I think the next one is basically change your circle. Most people are failing because of their environment or the people they're hanging around with. I think there's a very famous saying, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I don't know if that was Dan Penza. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Change the people. Get rid of them. Doesn't matter if it's a loved one, a spouse. Obviously, if it's family members, when I say get rid of them, put them at arm's length. You can never get rid of your family. But if you know that person's destructive in your life, just don't communicate with them on a regular basis. Don't listen to the false information. They're just sat there watching the news, absorbing all the negative, and then they just want to put it on everyone else. So keep your circle tight. If you're in a bad situation with drugs, alcohol, and you're hanging around with the wrong people, you're not a tree. And what I mean by that, you're not rooted in that place. You can actually physically pack a bag. I know it's hard. Physically close your life down and move. Get away from it. Why live in depression, stress, anxiety when you can just up and be happy?
Yeah.
Walking away from that bad relationship will make you happy. Getting rid of that bad friend will make you happy. Changing your location where you don't have easy access to the drugs or the people that are egging you on will make you happy. So they're the 3 points to success. Educate yourself, believe in a higher power, and get out of that environment and get away from them bad people.
On a day-to-day basis, what do you do to keep, clear mental states healthy? And what's your go-to?
Yeah, so we PT. One of the biggest things I always tell anyone: work out what your daily or hourly rate is, and basically that daily rate, if any task falls under the amount of money you make a day. So let's say, for instance, I make £1,000 a day. If a day's worth £1,000 to me and the cleaner only costs £40 for 2 hours, why would I clean my own house? Because I'm losing them hours are more valuable doing my tasks than they are getting a cleaner. People don't like this though. They see it as lazy or you're not doing. But no, you're taking away simple tasks to give you the bigger earning potential. Having a gardener. Making sure your kids are well looked after and they've got school care. And one of the biggest things there is having a PT. So you will never train yourself as well as a PT will train you. You have to go through a lot of bad eggs to find a good one. I'm lucky, one of my ex-Special Forces buddy lives in Bolton and he PTs me and my partner. So we get thrashed. Get on point with your dietary requirements. That's huge. Like, it's too easy to get in a McDonald's now, and I'm not saying don't eat stuff you enjoy to eat, but understand, educate. Once again, it comes back to education. Understand your carbs, your macros, your proteins, your fats. Understand what water does if you're taking in the right amount. And one of the biggest things, if you don't present well and you're overweight, people are going to see that in a business transaction.
Okay.
One of the biggest things I look for now is, how does somebody look? Like, do they impress me? Have they got presence? Or are they just a slob and they're not dressed well and they're overweight? And that every time I've done business with somebody that's been overweight or doesn't dress well or doesn't present themselves well, it's always turned into a nightmare business partnership. And I could have told you that from day one of meeting them. So stay fit day to day. Make sure you're getting your steps in. Make sure you're eating right. Make sure you're drinking right. Cold water therapy is one of the most important things and essential. You don't have to have a plunge pool. You can have a cold shower. But it will change you. It releases your dopamine. It gives you a natural high in the morning. And you can do it before bed and it helps you sleep. Making sure the food's right. I've said that. Make sure your water intake. Once you've come back from the gym, you're on that sort of high, natural high from exercising. So it's not just giving you the physical reward, but you've also got the mental aspect. And what people don't realize is, like, there's no point trying to build wealth or trying to build something great if you're not well, if you're not healthy. Yeah. So there's the saying, health before wealth. Yeah. So work on yourself, get yourself fit and healthy, and set a goal. My goal at the beginning of the year was to lose 3 stone. I was actually 23 stone and I've dropped to about 16, 11 now, which is a massive goal. I've not been 16 stone since I was a kid. But But I set that task and I achieved it. And the biggest player there was keep exercising, but stop putting stuff in my mouth. I went down to 1 meal a day, and we crushed it. And that sense of achievement is massive. So yeah, exercise. Once you then get home, have your routine and you set your plan laid out. I think without a plan or without clear direction, you can get lost very easily. Yeah, they're the two main points in terms of the day.